Alright, proofs. Page 8, the last page. Alright, complete the following proofs. AB is congruent to DB, and C is the midpoint of AD. Okay, so this is our given. So we know that AB is congruent to DB because they gave that to us. Our other given was that C is the midpoint of AD. Okay, so now we need to take the given and mark it on our picture. So AB is congruent to DB, AB is congruent to DB, C is the midpoint of AD, so that means that I know that AC is congruent to CD, because the definition of midpoint, that's a step in our proof. So I know AC is congruent to DC. What else do I know from this picture? That this side BC is shared in both triangles, so it's congruent to itself, so that's the reflexive property. So BC is congruent to BC by the reflexive property. Alright, you have three things in one triangle, three things in another triangle. We now know the two triangles are congruent by side, 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 because you have three sides in one and three sides in another. Alright, the second proof, you have two overlapping triangles, so the first thing I'm going to do is separate them like we normally do. So this is L, K, N. The other triangle is J, N, M. Okay. Alright, and what do they tell us in the given? They tell us NKL, angle NKL, so this angle is congruent to angle NJM, that angle. Okay, that's given. The other given is that KL is congruent to JM, KL is congruent to JM. So in our picture, KL is congruent to JM. Alright, and then if you're looking at both of the triangles, the overlapping one here and this one here, they both have angle N in both of them. So angle N is congruent to itself by the reflexive property. Okay, so now you're looking at the two triangles. You have three things here. You have two angles and a side, and you have two angles and a side. So that is enough information to prove the two triangles are congruent, and they're congruent by angle, angle, side. Angle, 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 side. The reason why it's not angle, side, angle is because the angle would have to be here so that the side is in between. So you have enough information to prove that the two triangles are congruent by angle, angle, side. And now how do I know that LN, how do I know that this side, let's do this in green, how do I know that this side LN is now congruent to MN? Well, we just proved the two triangles were congruent, so now the corresponding parts are congruent. So by CPC/TC, we now know that the corresponding sides are also now congruent. Alright, distance, slope, and midpoint between these 2 points. So the first point is negative 2, 3. So negative 2, 1, 2, 3 is that point right there. Okay, and then 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 off graph. Okay. Alright, so in order to find, we'll start with distance. So let me connect these 2 points. Okay, so I'm finding the distance between that. In order to do distance, you're going to use the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A is the distance it takes to go up, so vertical. So from here, I go 1, 2, 3, so it takes me 3 up. Okay, B is the distance it takes me to go horizontally. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it took me 6 to go over. I formed a right triangle. That's why I'm using Pythagorean theorem. So A is 3, B is 6. To get side C, this is my hypotenuse of the triangle. Okay, so you've got 9 plus 36 equals C squared. 9 plus 36 is 45 equals C squared, and then in order to get C by itself, take the square root of both sides, so C is equal to the square root of 45, and that's your distance, and you can leave it like that. Okay, the slope, you take the same numbers that you use for the distance. Remember, slope is rise, so the vertical over the run, 3 over the 6, so rise over run, 3 over 6, which can be simplified to 1 over 2. And then you look at the line, and since this is a positive line, my slope is a positive 1/2. Okay, and then the midpoint. So the midpoint, if you're thinking about this segment, looks like it's going to be somewhere right here. So you're going to go up half as much as you normally would on your rise. So normally I would go up 3, but now I'm going to go up half of 3, which is 1.5, so right here. Alright, my run is 6, so I'm going to actually go 3, which is right here. And where these two parts, so where this and this connect on your segment, is your midpoint. So that point right there should be 1. And then I go up 1, 2, 3, 4, and halfway, so 1 and 4.5 is your midpoint. Alright, 35. Alright, so a completely new problem now. If the endpoint is negative 2, 4, so let's get rid of this. Negative 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is an endpoint. My midpoint is 2, 1. So this is the midpoint of my segment. I want to find the coordinate of the other endpoint. Alright, so if this is my midpoint, it took me it took me 3 to go down, and 1, 2, 3, and 4 to go over to get from one of my endpoints to my midpoint. And if this is the middle of my segment, then my other point has to be somewhere over here. And since this is the midpoint, this distance needs to be the same as this distance. So think about, if I go 3 and 4 over to get to the midpoint, I need to go down 3 again and over 4 to get to where the other endpoint is. And then therefore this is the midpoint of that segment. Okay, so what point is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. So it looks like the other endpoint is going to be 6, negative 2. Alright, the last two problems for the review. Draw a line with a slope of 0. Well, if this is my graph, a slope of 0 is a horizontal line. Okay, draw a line with a slope that's undefined. So an undefined slope is a horizontal line. Oh, I said that wrong, sorry. A slope of an undefined line is a vertical line, so the green line is undefined. And then a slope of a 0 line is a horizontal line. So the blue is a horizontal line, that's a slope of a 0, slope of a line with a 0 slope, and the green line is a vertical line, and that is the slope of a undefined line.